All right, so welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending whatever part of the world you're joining this session from. Quite excited about this particular session because this is week two of Tech Up Globally High Income. Now, today is going to be a very special night because we have someone very dear to me. Um, Now, this guy is a beast when it comes to mobile app development, and then he's going to be sharing his journey and then how you could also break into tech with mobile app development. So before we jump straight to tonight's class, let me know where you're chatting from, where you're joining the session from, your name and then your state, your name and your country. Let's go. Let me see the comment section. Welcome, Feton Brand. Welcome, Lightside. Um, Hello, Isaac Dauda. Welcome. Let me know where you are joining me from, your name, and then your state. Let's go. So while we do that, grab a notepad because tonight's section is gonna be premium content. Let's go, guys. Let me see the comments, your name, and then where you are joining from. Welcome, Grace. Welcome, Grace. Welcome, David. Welcome. Welcome. All right, just to be sure, is Chris, are you there? Can you
Yes, I
hear me?
am.
All right,
Yes, yes.
awesome, awesome. So, all right. So, welcome. I'm seeing the comments. Welcome, Moses from Jos. Welcome, Isaac. And welcome, Sam Digital Concept. Yeah, I'm seeing the comments. Welcome, guys. Welcome. All right, so let's jump straight to the next session. Like I said, it's going to be exclusive. Welcome, Chris. Yeah, so let me back to you. Uh,
Hello.
yeah, I can hear you, and I can hear you.
Okay. Over to me.
Yeah, go ahead, one.
All right. All right. For those who don't already know me in the that I am popularly known as the architect. I'll basically start a little bit of an introduction, explaining why I decided to learn mobile development. Note, mobile development wasn't like it's not the first thing I ventured into tech-wise. I've done different things. Started with backend development, started with encryption, and later moved up to mobile development because it was exciting. Exciting. One moment. Hi. I guess everyone can see me now. Mm. So I decided to learn about development because at that point it was exciting. I always seen apps growing up, and I wanted to build an application and actually have one there. So I went into mobile development. It wasn't that easy, will I say, starting out, but eventually things started to pan out. That's basically an introduction why I decided to learn mobile development. Hello, Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, my network is a bit bad, so just go ahead, man. Go ahead.
All right, all right. Basically, I prepared some things for the audience. Basically, advices for people starting out in mobile development. I'll start out talking about myself. Basically, an introduction into why I decided to go into mobile development. Then I'll walk you through my learning process, how it was, the errors, everything. Then I will show you a few of things I've worked on that are actually live. Yeah. Then I'll give you some insight into, let's say, things I've learned during this programming web development journey. So at this point, yes, you're also allowed to ask questions. I'll also be looking through the comments in case you do have any questions. So I'll just start out with learning process. How I learned. Notes. I'm very sure some of the viewers here, some of you are total newbies. Some of you already know a little bit about programming. So how I learned, I was already coming from a programming background. I was already working with Python. I was already building backend. I could do web at that particular point. I decided to go into mobile because it was the next interesting thing. Because I worked with web development in web development like over 2 years at that point. So it was like mobile development. It was basically hot cake. Why I did not actually go to mobile development from the very beginning is because you have Android, you have iOS apps. I just started looking at the stress, trying to decide, okay, do I focus on building Android apps or iOS apps? Why? Because you have to build them separately. But guess what? At that point, I learned about a new technology called React Native. What does React Native do? With React Native, you're able to actually build for both Android and iOS. So at this point, I was like, okay, I have to check it out. I went in, delved into it a bit, downloaded some tutorials. This is my learning process. Since I didn't knew it, I didn't have to go through the fundamentals again. I just got some tutorials, I started watching them. I already had knowledge of HTML. These are the two major things you need if you want to go into mobile development. You need to have the very basics. Don't try to skip a step. You need to have the very basics. What could be the very basics? You need to start from the basics, HTML, vanilla JavaScript. Vanilla JavaScript is when you write within the HTML, with the normal HTML. Um, Maybe learn Python. Just ground yourself. That helps you with logic and design. Then when you decide to move into development, there are two technologies I usually recommend. We have Flutter, we have React Native. I work with React Native myself. So React Native. Eddie had the knowledge of design. Eddie knew how to write logic. So all I did is I started watching tutorials. These tutorials I was watching took me through the basics of mobile design, creating my first screen. Like I went through the hello world process. Everyone here, when you try to start programming, you see the first thing you do is how to do hello world. I went through the hello world process, showed up my first app. I was very excited. I was working with an emulator on my PC. So I was very excited. Oh, I know it wasn't an app yet. It was just a single page. But I was very excited. I built something. Started going there. Next thing, obviously, I'm overzealous. I wanted to, okay, how do I add images? How do I add videos? Then the next thing, how do I move from one page to another? So I just took it step by step, step by step. And my learning process, I decided to go more of a project approach, meaning as I'm learning, I now found a mini project that I've been working on. It was just a simple e-commerce design, more like no backend, nothing, nothing. Just for the pages, I click on this, it moves to this page, it does this. It's not like it really does anything. So at the ending, after building this, oh, I was so excited. And then I was working with a company. I decided to now apply that into the product we're building, built the app from basically start to completion. Also had co-workers I was working with. We're two in the mobile development unit. We started working together. It was really nice. That actually brings you to one of the main things you need as a programmer. You need to collaborate. Don't feel that you know everything. You need to be able to learn from others, basically. Yes. So that was the basics of how my learning process in mobile development. I went through the same process as you. Hello world, display image, do this. Before I then started interacting with APIs. APIs, for those that do not know what it is, it's like this is your mobile application on your phone, for instance. That mobile app is localized on your phone. Now, all those data, for you to be able to send a text message, it gets to the other person instantly. That's not happening on your phone. So, like your phone is basically connected to like a server. Think of it like a warehouse in the cloud where all the information is stored, everybody's information is stored. So your phone basically just connects, that app connects to the server, pushes whatever information it needs to push, or pulls whatever information it needs to push. I think that was one of the things I had to learn. At the moment I learned that, I did not wait to even learn the rest. I went and started building a live app. I learned the hard way. I had to go back, like, and actually go back to those things I missed. Yeah. So this is basic of how I actually delved into mobile development. Are there any questions at this point from the audience? I still have a lot to give to you, but if there are any questions, please do type it. I'll check and see. Hello, Sam. I can see you, Sam from Lagos. Nice to have you here. We have Moses. Nice to have you here. Same thing, Isaac. Yeah, it's great to have you here. Does anyone have any questions at this point regarding mobile development? Okay. I don't know if it's lagging, but if it's not, I would continue. One moment. So yes, basically, I've written down basically a guideline for those that actually want to delve into mobile development. If you want, you can jot it. I'll also be providing this at the ending of the video, so you'll be able to come back to the video and check it here. There are basically, will I say, 7 or 8 steps if you want to actually succeed in mobile development. It's not a universal step process. This is what I just wrote down. One of the very first things is actually for you to choose the language you're going to be working with. Like, oh, you heard me mention Flutter and React Native. These are one of the biggest. There are other things like Xamarin, but let's say we have Flutter, we have React Native. You choose which one you want to work with. You understand the basics of each so that you know why you're choosing it. Oh, Flutter, I'm choosing it because it's faster to build. It's Flutter. There are templates out there to work with. Or I'm choosing React Native because it's JavaScript. There are a lot of libraries I have access to. Just know why you are choosing this platform. The next thing is to learn the basics. you might know the name of the languages, but maybe you're a newbie, so you do not actually know the basics of programming. I'd always recommend, if you're to go into programming, you should at least learn HTML and JavaScript, at least. Like I do train, so I usually take students through this process. You learn HTML, you learn JavaScript. So by the time you come to React Native, for instance, you don't need to start learning afresh, or nothing looks too alien to you. It's easy to pick it up. It's easier to pick. It's not easy. It's easier to pick it up. After learning the basics, the next thing for you to do is to practice, because repetition is actually key to mastery when it comes to programming. I can tell you there are codes I wrote, like let's say even 2 weeks ago, or when I was starting out, I could write a code today. 2 weeks later, I'm unable to even understand what I wrote. Why? I wasn't practicing enough, and also I wasn't documenting properly. Like you're actually meant to document your code properly. And towards the end, after this, I'll show you an example of what I mean by documenting your code. Yes, it's more of an explanation. Then next, after you practice and practice and practice, you keep practicing. The more you practice, the more you feel confident to move on to things that are, like say, more like that are basically harder or perceived harder to implement. Next thing, learn to be able to deal with failure, because trust me, in programming, there are days your code is not going to run for like nothing will be happening. You'll be having errors 2 days, even 1 week. You're not going to know how to even go about it. Sometimes you can just abandon it. You just give up. I had that. I When I started learning C sharp, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, I was working on this AI project. Since I wasn't using the library, I was working on it on my own. I ran into a lot of errors, things like that. At a point, I needed to do some things and think it was not working as well as I wanted. I actually left that project for more than a year. It was 1 year later, after I've grown myself with Python and other languages, I actually came back, and within the first 2 days, I actually solved that issue that I left for 1 year. Why? I just gave up too easily because I was still coming up, I was still learning then. So you should not be too hard on yourself, basically, when you fall into situations like that. Sure, it's good to be self-critical, but also don't beat yourself up like over mistakes. It happens to everyone. Everyone runs into errors and issues. After that, I think the next thing is to keep up with the trends. Keeping up with the trends, when I say that, I'm referring to situations where there are always new things coming up. I have a lot of friends that even publish blog articles. There are different things you see, different functionalities, sweet things you see that you can actually do. For instance, I do have a startup. So currently we run into some issues, yeah, and that took us like more than a week. It just took us back a little bit, only for me to find out, talking to a colleague like 2 days ago, I found out a way to actually solve that issue. That's what I meant by collaboration. You actually have to talk to people. If I had just stayed on my own, I probably wouldn't have found out like the actual way to solve it. But I just raised up the issue, bro. I've been having issues. How can you help me? I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to reduce the size of this image to this. And almost immediately, he forwarded codes I needed to work with here. Okay. I can see a question from the audience. Any particular reason why I picked React Native over Flutter? Um, React Native over Flutter. First off, there's like an enmity between React Native developers and Flutter developers. It's almost like supporting Chelsea or Arsenal. You know, Chelsea or Arsenal, you know how it is. So the thing is, React Native, why did I choose React Native? I do know Flutter will be faster, but like I mentioned earlier, React Native, one of the reasons I chose it is JavaScript. JavaScript has almost one of the biggest like repositories of open source libraries I can use. Let me explain that. Sometimes you want to do something, you're going to write a lot of code to do it. But in most cases, you find out that there are people that have actually done like they have created a solution to that your problem. It is online, free. All you need to do is just download that library and actually use. Basically, that's one of the reasons I prefer React Native. Also, React Native has this feature called OTA, over the air updates. For those here that maybe already have experience in mobile development, it's to update your application. First off, you bundle the application after you finish developing, you bundle the application, you upload it to your Play Store, you upload it to App Store, then Google or Apple would not have to go through the application and now approve the application. Sometimes this takes a day, sometimes this could take up to 3 days. It just depends on how big of a change you made. But now, this feature in React Native, you can actually update the app remotely. You can up remotely, you don't need to stop. I'm sure almost everyone has cases of when you open your app, you can see some features. You know that this app did not update, you did not go to store to update, but just open your WhatsApp and you see that something has changed. How do you think that was done? That is using React Native. Also, part of what you look at when you choose a language is the community backing it. React Native has an extensive community backing it. Also, React Native was basically developed by Facebook. That's what they use for their mobile applications. That's what I actually trust it. So that's the basics of why I would choose React Native over Flutter. Yeah. So don't publicize this. Let's know Flutter developers see this. Okay. I have another question from Sam. Sam Digital Concept. What's the start of tech? Now, the start of tech can be anything. Literally, it can be anything. It just depends on what you want it to be. Now, start of tech, ideally, you have to have basic knowledge of computer appreciation, as we call it here. Computer appreciation, as you know how to use all those Microsoft Excel, or even if you just know how to use, even if you just know how to turn on your system, watch a movie, as far as you can move from one app to another on your PC, that is step one. Step two, you know how to type, even if you're typing slow. When I started programming, I used to type with one hand, basically. But if I'm typing with two, I'm going small, 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 small. It's not like I started out already a genius or something. So that's basic. Computer appreciation, you know how to use a computer, then fine. That's step one. Step two, you know how to type. Then the next step is finding a very good beginner language. Now, you do not need to force yourself. You need a lot of people, they go with the hype, the flow. Hold on, I'm sure lots of people have heard of the word Python. They just want to learn Python because, well, it's Python. But no, people are different. There are people that are more, they work more with what they see. There are people that work more logically. So if you're someone that likes design, you want to be doing something and you're seeing it immediately, I would suggest you start out learning HTML before you move up on into something bigger. If you're someone that thinks more logically and you don't think you get easily, like say you lose focus, then you can start out with Python, dependent on you. But always, HTML is always a very good beginning point for anyone. HTML is a very good beginning point. Then you now decide to go on to Python and Co. If you can't learn Python, it's not your fault. I can tell you myself personally, I'm not as good with designs. Like when I say designs, like actually making the design. So the way I work in an organization structure, we have a team of designers, UI UX designers. So they design what we are going to build. So I don't need to start racking my head up on design. I just go, I design what is there. So those are the basic steps. You can start out with HTML. You can start out with UI, interface design, that's UI UX, depending on what kind of a person you are. Or you can start out with Python if you feel you can carry it. It's more logical. The reason why a lot of people get tired with Python is you as you're working, it's not like you're seeing one beautiful interface. No, everything is more command line. I'll show some examples of that. So I think I should have answered your question here about the start of tech. Then the beginning of mobile development is basically the same thing. If you want to learn mobile development, I'll suggest you're learning as a beginner. Learn something fundamental first, HTML, that's design. After learning HTML, understand JavaScript or learn it. JavaScript is for logic, or learn a little bit of Python so you understand logic, and then move into mobile development and you'll be fine. Just follow tutorials, but it's always good when you're starting out, attend a proper lecture, not the one you can try to learn on your own. Me, when I started out, I went to a training school. I learned the basics of programming. I now decided to go and learn on my own other things. So those are the things to note if you actually want to start. Thank you for that question, Sam. Since I can't see any current question here, I'll be continuing with what I do have packed here. I stopped at, I think, keeping up with the trends. Basically, keeping up with the trends. Always try to look up and see what's new. What can help your life. An example of keeping up with the trends would be what? ChatGPT. Because, see, recently, ChatGPT has made some things and a lot of things easier for most developers. Using ChatGPT does not mean you don't know what you're doing or you're coming. In fact, to go on understanding someone else's is actually better than writing it from scratch sometimes. So ChatGPT, when it came out, it was very nice. You could ask it some things, it gets you the answers immediately. I myself have used ChatGPT. I was working on a bot that I needed to script some information for me, and I kept hitting this brick wall because the website automatically detects if I'm a bot or not. So what do? I just asked ChatGPT, oh, how do I make it so that this website I'm being, it just added it to my code, and that was it. So basically keep up with the trends. That's one of the things you should look at. Then I've mentioned collaborate, but I'm going to really stress on it. Collaborate. You're still learning. You're a starter. In reality, yeah, you actually need people around you that complement your skills. You heard me when I mentioned you might not be good at everything. You might only be design focused. You might be business focused. There's room for business in tech. You might even be more logically focused. All you need to do is have people around you that complement your skill. So if you're not very good, let's say you want to sell yourself as a programmer. Some things, a lot of issues programmers have is they can't actually sell themselves. Like, oh, I do mobile development. Does anyone know you do mobile development? If you think you can sell yourself, have someone that can sell yourself. If you think you're not as good as design, have someone that is good at design. Both of you can collaborate. Collaboration also works within someone that has the same skill set as you. That means the person knows that you do not know. I did give the example of having a colleague who was able to help me with bugs I do have. Like, surround yourself with people like that. Also, communities. Communities are very important. Like a community. Join a community. Even if it's not official, join a community. Right? You're going to meet like-minded people. Why I say join the community is not just to socialize. Trust me, programming is almost, will I say, a lonely career. When I say lonely, it's not like you're really interacting with people, you're working on your PC here. So for you not to give up, sometimes it's good to um, surround yourself with people that actually know what you're going through. When I say know what you're going through, they can understand. Because how do you explain to somebody that they just see you're awake, like you're still sleeping by 10 a.m., 11 a.m., but at night you are working, maybe because you're working remotely. So you need people in that community that know what you're going through, that can actually help you to grow also. When I say help you to grow, um, so you do not lose focus, that actually help you to grow, there will always be opportunities because you see everywhere, oh, come learn a high income skill, come do this. It's not just learning the skills that would actually put money in your pocket, for instance. You need to socialize. People need to know what you are doing. You get just say that tech is boring. It's not a boring craft, please. It's very exciting. I say this is lonely. It's lonely sometimes. Like when you're working, it's basically you and the PD. So you just surround yourself with people. That's why it's good for you to be very passionate about what you do. If you're passionate about tech, trust me, that expression, loving what you do or working and loving it, it basically just fits right there. Like me, I code almost every day. I enjoy what I do. I like the fact that I'm able to build something and people are actually using this. When I say this, I built a fintech with my team, a financial service called Groove. Now, we have customers that are actually using our application. Now, imagine your joy as a programmer or a developer that you actually did something and there are people out there using it. It does help that I get paid, obviously, but I'm just telling you, like, there's this joy in actually having people use your application. If I were to open my phone now, I just opened. Look at this right here. Groove. When you look at this is an actual app built right on this PC I'm using to talk to you. It's on Play Store, it's everywhere. You just go and download it. This is part of the joys of being a programmer. Aside the money, people actually using your application is a validation on it. I know why I'm saying this. Starting out, I worked um, as a developer with companies. Before I founded my own company, I worked as a developer. I went through normal development, you know, junior developer till I got to senior developer. Then after a point, I switched to software architecture. Now, at this point, I can tell you I worked on a software for months. For months. Guess what? It didn't go live. Listen, why then I be sad? I was getting paid. I was getting paid. But why then would I be sad? Because it just felt somehow knowing that I spent this amount of time on something and nobody's even getting to use. So that's actually one of the things. Build something you'll be proud having people use it. That's one of the most important things. Build something you'll be proud having people use it. I think one of the last things on the list of advices is for you to continuously improve. Continuously improve, as in always try to grow yourself. Like always have targets. It doesn't just have to be in mobile development, it can be in anything, honestly. Continuously improve. As I am like this, I work with UI developers, but I still try to improve myself, try to be a better designer. Yeah, I'm bad with colors and all, but at least I'm getting into design structures. I know how to do UX part of the UI UX. Just that UI part I'm still working on, and it's part of my goals for this year. So that's the main thing. You continuously improve. Don't think, I've learned this. Ah, I'm king of the world. Because trust me, our parents, as they are, yeah, I'm pretty sure at a particular point, I'm pretty sure at a particular point, yeah, they thought, oh, because I'm speaking from experience. Even when I was in camp, when I did my youth service like a couple years ago, when I did my youth service 3 or so years ago, um, I actually trained all the NYSC staffs that were in that camp. I trained all of them. You know, when people do their normal CDS, I actually saw the state of things and I applied and I decided to train all the staffs there. I wrote a letter to the, is it the state coordinator or something? It was approved. I decided to train them. Why? Some of the staffs, based on conversation, talk to people. Some of the staff, based on conversation, okay, they knew this is what I did. I was more into tech, yeah. And they were like, I learned computer that year. I studied computer this. But when I started, we did not use laptop. You know how they talk. We did not use laptop. It's just paper we have been filling, we have been doing this, we have been doing that. Can you come and at least help us brush up? You get, help us brush up, help us do this. So what did I do? I conducted a training session to them through the very basics, Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word, basically. Microsoft Excel and Microsoft Word. This is them improving. Why did I say this? How did we get to this point? We got to this point when I mentioned, don't think you're at the top of the world. These guys years ago, what they think? Oh, I learned computer engineering. I can print, I can do this. But what do we see now? There's programming, there are different things. I can tell you there are things even I have learned I can't even use now. So don't just sit down and say, I've learned this. No. If there's something new that comes out, try to look at it, basically, so you don't get left behind. Because honestly, tech, I'll tell you that tech, yeah, tech is very, I say, it's a very fast moving something. Before you know now, look at this. Imagine web developers before WordPress came out. Now, clients do not even need to come to you. They can just go drag and drop, design their own websites by themselves. There are lots of no coding, no code tools out there like Bubble and Co. You could use to do a design without even writing a code. So now, at this moment, you've learned, for instance, web development. Move on to the next thing. That's actually why part of why I entered mobile development. Because at this point, I was like, why am I even doing web again? I still do web, but just more advanced stuff, more advanced web development. Um, when you do mobile, I'm sure in a few years from now, there'll be applications you can drag and drop and create UIs. Not even a few years from now, they are there currently. They're just paid and they're expensive. I'm sure if React Native has a drag and drop, it's just paid and expensive. You know, you'll be able to get this free. And what happens to you that is saying, "Oh, I'm a mobile developer"? You just be left behind. So always look for the next thing. If after this you decide to go into DevOps, move into DevOps. After that, rules will always come up. So just keep improving and improving and improving, so you do not become irrelevant. It's very easy to become irrelevant. Yeah. So I would say these are the basic advices I could give you regarding starting out in mobile development. I would continue with other things, but for the moment, does anyone have anything to comment on or any questions you do have to ask regarding mobile development? I would be on standby to answer. Yeah. Oh yes, I can see. Yes, Joseph is. Yeah. Okay. So you can see some of the points being mentioned in the comment section. The points are being mentioned in the comment section. So there are other things that I would like to show you through. Part of the learning process, I'll just demonstrate a little bit of what I do have right here. So earlier today, I was working on something. Let me just show you what my regular coding looks like. I'll be sharing my screen in a bit. Do let me know if you can see the screen. Hello? Can you see the screen?
You haven't shared. Tap the share button.
Okay. One moment. Let me share this properly. I think it's loading. It's loading. Okay. Can you see my screen now? Hello?
Hey, we can. We can.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So basically, my day to day, this is basically what's my when I'm developing what things look like. I basically have something called an emulator by the side. I use this to test the applications I'm building. I have an emulator for an iPhone. I have an emulator for Android. I have an emulator to test. This is a simulator to test even if it's iPad. Can you see this list here? Even if it's an iPad, whatever type of phone screen I want to test, I have it here. Right? When you're building, you have to make sure your application looks presentable on whatever type of device it is. I can tell you this is very necessary. Even I, as I am currently, I have some designs. After I even pushed live, I checked it out and I found out that on some phones, basically, it wasn't looking as it was meant to look. It wasn't looking as it was meant to look. Yeah. So these basics of what this is a whole lot. This is a whole lot here. A lot of closed folders, basically. But now the basics, what I explained, number one, documentation. You have to properly document your code so you do not forget what you're doing. Look at this, creating a simple helper function to compress images for me. By the way, this is why I said a coworker helped me out with the proper library to use here. So what was I trying to do? I needed to be able to compress images before uploading them to the server, for instance. I tried different ways. It wasn't working the way I wanted it to. I finally found a way, spent most of the day actually trying to work around the logic for it. And here we are now. If you do not have experience with JavaScript, you probably won't understand what you're saying. But just focus on the comments. Even you that have basically no programming language, you can see basic things here. Looking at this line, when you see this grayed out like this and this slash, it's a comment. It's a comment, not part of the code. It's just like a note, basically. When you see something like this, you don't know what is happening here. I'm telling myself, oh, what's happening here? If you look at this, I'm setting the amount, the size of the image I want. Anybody here looking at this, I'm sure if you look at this, what is here right there, you can literally tell what I'm trying to do here. It's basic. You can basically see 20 kilobytes. I'm trying to set it to 20 kilobytes. This is what is happening on this line. When you come here, what do you see? Compress the image. I'm trying to compress the image. This is something very important. When I say very important, when you're going to be talking to recruiters or employers, usually Aside you being able to code, they look at how you're able to document your code. Why? You're working within teams. You're working within teams, meaning these teams need to be able to understand what you yourself did. How you arrange things, how you do different things matters, especially if you do want to get a job. It matters, like it really matters here. Looking at this, you understand what is happening here. Maybe you do not understand, but this here you can see checking if the image size is already perfect and then ending the loop. Basically, you just have to document your code properly so you know what is happening here. For you to do a sample of this, I'll basically be starting the server. Let me just take you through a walkthrough of me working. Okay. I basically start the server. This is my emulator right here. It knows, it's able to find it. These are all codes, and I just click on what I, for instance. What happens? It loads, it tries to bundle and load this particular this application I've been building. Note this technology I'm using is called React Native. I'm basically using React Native to build this project right here. This is a live project. If you go on your phone, check your app store, you're going to find Group Finance there. You can use it to create virtual cards, dollar cards for those that need dollar cards. You can use it to do many things here. So this is a basic application. Yeah. Login, everything is live. But thank God my password is not showing. You'd have been able to take my money. So you log in, for instance, everything was basically built, handcrafted. It's pulling this information from the server, basically. Yeah. This is the basics for mobile development. See all of this. All of this did not just appear from nowhere. There was a design. This was designed prior to it actually coming here. I'll show you a little bit of a sample. Okay, sorry. I do have some things here. I just want to make sure the right screen loads. 1 minute. Mm, this is just a sample for you to see the workflow of a mobile developer. The process we follow, getting the designs, and then actually working on and building the actual design. A moment. Okay, found it. Okay, I'll present my screen again. After this, I have some things you could do to liven up your development process. Okay. Please do confirm if you can see the screen. If you can see what's on the screen. Hello?
Yeah, we can.
Is
We
it show?
can.
Okay. Okay. All right. You see what's on the screen. What do you see? The normal process to development is first you do like a wireframe. For wireframe, you do it on like a pen and paper. You do your thing on a pen and paper, basically. Pen and paper meaning you have a sketch of what your design is going to look like. If you can't do that, it means it's someone else doing that for you. Then the next thing, you start what we call the high fidelity design. What the design looks like, which is basically this. It's drag and drop. For those familiar with Figma, for those not familiar with Figma, Figma is a tool like all, not like Photoshop, or for example, but this is just for designing screens. So after you're done designing, basically the way I teach my students, for instance, is after you're done designing, the next thing you do is you start building things one by one. When it comes to React Native, you build things one by one. When I say one by one, you have to build this guy, for instance, here. You build this guy so that this guy, you cannot use it here, you can use it here, you can use it here. It's called components. You build it like a component, you can reuse it. So that anywhere I need to do something like this, like a circle with this in the middle. I do not need to start afresh. This is why I said you should have knowledge of you should have knowledge of HTML at least, so you're very familiar with designs. Next, same thing, you look for something else like a component, you build it basically. So once you build this, you can use it here, you can use it here, you can use it here. All you need to do is change the colors. Note all these are the designs now. This is now live. This is now it's actually live and working, for instance. Next thing you do is you look for something else. This is another component you build, and you just continue doing that till you've basically built all the screens available for you. Then start linking them one by one, one by one. Linking them as in you can move to this page, you can move to this page, you can move to this page, something like that. So after that, if you remember, I explained the process of my learning. After learning movement, what's the next thing I did? For it to be able to connect to a server online, for it to be able to get information online from a server. So that's I don't want to go in depth here, but this was just to show you something you're doing working live. Or a second demonstration I'll be doing is showing you that this is not just put there. This is a design. This is actually a design need. So what I'm actually going to do currently, I'm going to find somewhere in the code and I'm going to change something here for you to see. Okay. So that's the thing. Next thing is arrangement. When you learn, you arrange your code properly. So when you need to find something, you need to find it very easily. So here I can just come here, go to my dashboard. I already know where this page is. Is this page here, dashboard. I just go to the dashboard and then see the number of lines for just this page, 800 and something. This was all written from top to bottom, and I have like hundreds of files here, same thing. So next thing, I didn't know what page this dashboard is. All I need to do is just come here and one moment. If, for example, I want to change this airtime written here to something, maybe I want to change it to, let me check here. What I should change it to. Let's I want to change it to training, for instance. I'm just picking something random from the live. So all I need to do, I just find where this is. Yeah, this is our navigation. I just find where it is. And see, if you look at this, this has already been, well, you won't understand, but this has already been built out. So I can use it however I want. This is what I meant about building components. You carry this, once you build something like this, you can use it as many times as you want. If you look at this, this is icon button, icon button, icon button, for instance. And the only difference in reality is just the icon inside, the color, which you can see me setting color. I don't know if you guys are familiar with color codes, and just the text on it. Example, I said I'll change this to learning, for instance. And what do you see? It updates immediately. Can you see this? This has changed to learning already. So these are the very basics. There are a whole lot. For those familiar with HTML, I'm very sure this is familiar to you. Your styling, font weight, font size, margin bottom. That's why I say you should have knowledge of HTML. You can see all of them: margin bottom, align items, and cool. So if you have basic knowledge of HTML, it will be easier for you to start designing all these things, because these are basically styling. Margin left, margin right, put this on top here, put this below here. That's basically it. I'll undo this learning back to what was there, airtime. This is actually live. It's to airtime right there. So this, I think this is a basic explanation on this particular front. I'll close the, yeah, I'll just shut down this emulator. So part of the things you can do, something else I also wanted to explain is programming doesn't always have to be boring. You guys, you can find ways to amuse yourself. Some things I do, I like to josh around a lot aside watching movies. I downloaded something here. This guy is just right beside me when I'm coding. So if I do something that like will cause an error, this guy will start frowning immediately. Like if I do something very catastrophic, the more like catastrophic it is, for instance, the harder this guy's frown. Do you get? The more catastrophic it is, the harder this guy's frown. There's the amount of error I would write. This guy's face will go dark, for instance. So these are some of the ways I actually just have fun when I'm programming. Because I'm writing my code, I'm just looking at this guy's face, waiting for it to start frowning. So basically, you can say sometimes I don't wait to have errors just so I can see the look on his face. But if there are no errors, if things are as they should be, it's brilliant at me. So these are some of the ways you can catch fun. Some of the things you should also do, I'll close this. Some of the things you should also do to document, um, to tell yourself, is to document some things you do. An example here is I have this right here. It's not only social media influencers that can post videos, even you too can. Just do something, add some reels, show them programming is fun. An example, I'll just play a little bit video. This rounds up what I'm going to talk about. I'll play a little bit of a video. Note, I've been programming for quite a while. So I have clients from different places. I've worked with Bafi Foundations, basically different organizations. So this is just a sample of when I was working on a particular project for Bafi Functions here. So I'll just open this. I decided to just record the videos. I'll just show you so you see. Look at this. I did it fast. In this video, you basically see the design. Let me pause it first. In this video, you basically see the design process, basically starting from scratch, starting an application from scratch. If you can see the starting here, starting an application from scratch and having something good at the end. I'll just this is a very fast video, so a couple of seconds. See this, just sped it up. So I recorded the whole process while I was programming, and I just decided to speed up just to show people how it is actually I go about coding. You see, when I started, I did not have anything really. I started building the structure of what things should look like. These lessons that you can be dragging and dropping. No, you actually work for it. You see by this side, I'm writing a code. I'm going back to the design to check what it looks like. And I just kept going on until what? You can see me even checking some websites for some resources. You see me having errors, all the red here errors, until I was actually able to do what? Just what you see. Until I was actually able to build out what I wanted. I think I had this screen. This is an empty screen. What's coming up next is an empty screen. This is a very good example. I had an empty screen. Please see the number of lines here. The number of lines is 39. I'm just starting an empty screen. I just started build a structure of how I wanted it to be. Building out the structure. The number of lines is 70 something now. It's almost 100 now. Till I was able to get to the final page. So basically, some of the things you can do is record videos reading what you can do, doing what you love, and record videos of you doing what you love, and actually put it out there. People would see this, people would be like, oh, this person actually knows what they are doing. So that's actually a very good way to sell yourself. Because if knowing the skill is just not enough, you need to be able to sell yourself. And I think that's basically all I have for the moment. I've taken you through basically advice, basically giving you advice on what to actually do. Okay. Basically giving you some insights into how it's organized there programming. I've shown you a sample of work being done. It's not a child's play. You actually work for it. You sit down, you build yourself, You learn the skill and you apply it. Apply it meaning you apply it to an actual project. And trust me, you're going to reap the rewards because when you're smiling, seeing your account balance, not just the account balance, seeing people using your application, it's worth it. It's worth it. So I would say to all of you right here, if you already do have knowledge of the basics, HTML and co, you should actually look into getting into web development. The field is huge. There are a lot of people looking for mobile apps. Every day, I'm always told, oh, I need a mobile app. How much can you do this? How much? At this point, I'm just checking. Do I have time to do this one? Is my team working on something else or this or that? So there's a lot of space. People are always looking for mobile developers at this particular point. People are looking, almost anyone wants a mobile app. Someone creates a new business on a mobile application. So there's a lot you can, this field can offer you. That's web development. Then mobile development. Then for those that do not have knowledge of the basics, I would suggest you do not run into mobile development. Start with the basics first. Learn HTML, very important. Learn JavaScript, the basics. It doesn't have to be like Node.js. Learn vanilla JavaScript, just normal JavaScript you write in your web browser that runs in your web browser. Learn it, and then after you finish learning that, come and apply yourself in mobile development. It's very exciting, honestly. At this point, I've built a lot of applications here. Though at this point, I have about three on Play Store I've worked on. Though, so you see, that's the beauty of it. Build and you reap the rewards. Are there any questions? I'll be checking the comment section to see if there's anything else. Yeah. But if there isn't, I'll have to um, call on Joseph to continue. One moment, please. Please, does anyone have any questions? You're free to ask in case I miss anything. I was just talking, but in case I did miss anything, do please ask. Okay. If no one has any question, does anyone have any experience with mobile development and the person wants to share? Can I talk more on documentation? Okay. I have a question. Can I talk more on documentation? Basically, I showed a sample, I shared my screen on documentation. Documentation basically is a very necessary skill as a developer. You need to be able to document your code. You're almost always not the only one working on a project. So you have to actually make sure your code is very readable. If it's what I showed you, you're just seeing some text, you're seeing brackets, you're seeing columns, you're seeing greater than, you're seeing this, you won't be able to understand it. Also, a fellow programmer obviously knows programming, yeah? So they'll be able to follow through. A fellow programmer obviously knows programming, so they'll be able to follow through. But it makes it very easier for a fellow programmer if you can just look at your code and they're able to understand what to do. That's a part of documentation. Documentation also involves when your project is going to the end users, you're able to carefully articulate each step of the project, like how everything works, so that the end user will find it very easy to work with. That's basically the basics of documentation. Commenting, also something I do when I'm documenting is anytime I'm installing a library, yes, on any project I'm working on, I actually have a file I just put by the side where I put in all the information about any single thing that I download to use. Let's say, for instance, I need an image picker library. I need a library that can help me pick images. I have a perfect example. I need a library that can help me generate a barcode, like a barcode or a QR code. One of the things I do is, first of all, it's not like it's inside my head. I go online, I research on how to actually generate barcode. Whatever works for me, I put the link, I copy the link of like where I got that solution. I put the link inside the file. I also put some, let's say, some other text to let whoever is coming after me, because you always have to build a project as if you're not the one that's going to maintain the project. Trust me. You build it as if you're not the one that's going to work on it later. Why? It also helps you because if you hear something programmers say, what they say, 2 weeks later, when you were writing the code, it's only you and God that knew what you were writing. After 2 weeks, it's only God that knows what he wrote. Like it happens. I write algorithms that when I look at it later, I don't even understand what it does. The easiest way for me to understand is if I actually put comments telling me what actually happens line by line. This actually happens. Imagine when you're writing something so complex that I don't even know what is happening there. I'm trying to see if I can find any projects I put online when I was still coming up, that I put on GitHub. That I put on GitHub. Let me see if I can find any, for instance. And I worked on a couple of projects. Then, if I can find any that I can share, so you can actually see what the code looks like. For instance, what I mean. Let's see. Okay, I think I found one. I don't think it's linked to anything at the moment. Yeah. I'll just share my screen for the last time. So you just take a look at this. Okay. When I say share my screen, this project, when I was my head was still hot, I just started. I want to, that point where you just want to do every single thing. I want to do encryption. I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do that. What happened? Do let me know when my screen pops up, when it starts showing this. Then I just wanted to do. Okay, I think it has come up. Then I just wanted to do almost everything. I went to encryption, and will I say at that point I didn't like using library. If you tell me there's a library that can do this thing for you, me I'm like, I will do it myself. I'll do it from the beginning to the end. So I wanted to go into encryption. I read a lot of novels. So part of the novels I read when I was younger, there was this part, all these James Hadley Chase novels. There was this part, this novel I read, Digital Fortress. In Digital Fortress, they were like literally, there was this organization, they were passing information from one person to another, and they had this kind of encryption. Like it was a block encryption, more like you write something, then you now divide what you write. You draw a line, you write something in like 4 lines, you draw a line in between, and then you now pick a random, you carry this part, you put it on the top, you carry this part, you put it on the top. So basically, I've always been fascinated because this is what they did in novel. When I learned programming, I decided to come and replicate it. This is me trying to write an encryption algorithm. What do you notice here? There is no comment. I'm not going to go too down. This is my, oh, yes. I'll not cut it down. But basically, if you look at this, you see that this is written from scratch. These are formulas written, everything. But the one thing I forgot to do was actually I forgot to comment. Comment as in I forgot to do that slash. I'm not writing a description of what I was doing every single line. Guess what happened? I can tell you till now, I don't know who wrote this. I wrote it, but I actually do not understand this. And when I was still coming up, my variable names, all those variable names, I was just naming them anyhow. Like, look at this, crypt D, crypt D2. Till now, I don't even know what these are, but I know these are functions I created. That's why, see, basically no comment anywhere. The only place you see, very few places they comment. If you see where comments are, it's down below. If you see the comments here, you see clearing the time encrypted, adding up the sum of encrypted values, the whole formula I will I say I created. I actually don't know what this does. But this project runs. I just know if I run it, it will run. But for me to explain my code to you, I actually can't. That is why documentation is very, very important. Document parameters, name your variables properly, understand the examiner, and explain your code to an external examiner. So yes, thank you all for having me. This is basically all I really have to give. I'm sure subsequently would have more questions because this took a whole lot of time. I didn't actually expect this speaking this long. So if there are no other questions, you can actually put your questions on the live when I'm able to come across it. Either of us would also provide answers to these questions here. So I think this all for now. On to you, Mr. Joseph.
Wow, this is. I just posted on my status right now. 1 hour plus, and these guys are still here asking questions. Are you trying to learn the whole of app development in one night?
No,
What?
that um, it take a long time. Like just
Well,
budget 2 months if you want to learn 2 3 months learning mobile development.
all right, guys. It really, really has been an amazing session. Basically, 1 hour of premium, premium content. It is one thing to learn a skill, is another thing to learn the business of that skill. You can have the best tech skill and still be broke. So these are two very, very important things you must learn to balance. You talk about power of community. Learning tech on your own can be very, very hard. It can be very frustrating because sometimes it feels like nothing is even working, like you're not seeing progress. You are designing, dropping your projects online, nobody's commenting. But then that is where communities come into place. Communities are very, very powerful. You get to network with other professionals that are doing better than you, that started before you. And then you already know your network is your network. So who you know actually very, very important. And then you also get access to job opportunities also on communities. So, with all that being said, if you're listening, you should go back and listen to the recordings and then also get all of this. You can't learn all of this in one particular day. The goal of Tech Up globally is to help as much people as possible switch into tech because then there's crazy money in tech. I keep saying it, there's crazy money in tech. Web development is just one part, and then the international clients that are ready to pay you times 10 of what you've ever, with the highest salary you've thought of. There are clients that are ready to pay you that well, but then you need to be that good. So, we've created systems also that will help you scale up your tech journey. Now, time to time, we'll be having our guest, the architect, come and cut premiums up also. Today, he shared with you a project
he worked on the Groove app. Groove is one of the biggest fintech app right now out of Africa. So imagine having someone like that to come and teach you. Really, really has been an amazing session. Anyways, we'll just wrap it up here. Go back to the group and then drop something nice. Let me know how your experience from tonight's session, what you enjoyed, what you benefited, what you learned differently. Drop it on the group, and then so that I can take a screenshot and also repost. All right, guys. So I guess that'll be all for now. Do enjoy the rest of your day. I'm ending the stream right now.